just wanted to thank all of you for showing up for this presentation. It's one of our first events that I'm hosting here at the museum, and I'm very honored to have John Bell of the Buffalo Soldiers, as well as his family, to do a presentation. Welcome, everyone.
My name is John Bell, and I'm the founder, president, and CEO of the Buffalo Soldiers of the American West. And we are a reenactment group, and we tell the story of the Buffalo Soldiers. Today we have a lot of things that we've kind of donated to the museum to help tell the story of the Buffalo Soldiers. The Buffalo Soldiers story actually begins before the Civil War. The men who became Buffalo Soldiers were former slaves, and they worked on the plantations. And in 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves. And during that time, the Civil War had started. And these former men who were slaves, joined the U.S. Army. They joined the Union Army. As a matter of fact, there were 180,000 of these former slaves who joined the Union Army. And 33,000 of these former slaves lost their lives in that war. When the war was over, Reconstruction started in the South, and they sent Union soldiers down in the South to make sure that the Civil War did not start again. And the people in the South did not like to see these blue coats coming into the South. And they did not especially like a blue coat that was worn by a soldier with a black face. They were in the South for a short time, and then they were sent back out of the South. And after the Civil War, they reduced the size of the army. And then they found out that during the Civil War, they had pulled a lot of the soldiers who were in the West out of the West to fight in the Civil War. The Native Americans out in the West thought they'd won the war. They had driven the troops out so they could take the land as they had been using it before. And then all of a sudden, in 1866 and 1867, the soldiers started coming back west because the Buffalo Soldiers had been created in 1866. They were the new units that they had created to come back west to protect the settlers. They created the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th Cavalries. The 7th and the 8th were white cavalry units commanded by white officers. The 9th and the 10th were primarily all black soldiers commanded by white officers. They created the 38th, the 39th, the 40th, and the 41st Infantries, all black, commanded by white officers. A white officer could get an upgrade in pay, or he could get another rank if he chose to command a black unit. One officer decided that he did not want to command the 9th Cavalry, which is an all-black cavalry. And he said that he didn't want that unit, no matter what they gave him. He didn't want an increase in pay or in rank. He chose the 7th Cavalry instead. His name was George Armstrong Custer. And maybe a lot of you know what happened to the 7th Cavalry at the Little Bighorn. Well, to this day, the Buffalo Soldiers of the 9th and 10th Cavalries are so glad that he chose the 7th instead of the 9th because of what happened to the 7th. Well, when those black soldiers started coming out west, they were wearing a blue uniform. And the Native Americans saw them coming, and they said, "Wasichu coming, white man coming back, Wasichu." And then when they got close to them, they said, "Wasichu Sapa," white man turned black. That was the first time that they had ever seen a black soldier out here in the West. They didn't know what to call them. They called them different kind of names. And then finally they decided they would call them a certain kind of a name. The Buffalo Soldiers, or the soldiers then were just black soldiers, had been called a lot of names. And they decided, some of them they didn't like. And so when the Native Americans started calling them Buffalo Soldiers, they took that name. Now, there are 3 theories how the Buffalo Soldiers got their name. The first theory is that the Native Americans saw them, and when they went in combat with them, they found out that when they shot that soldier, and they didn't kill him, he fought until the death, just like their sacred animal, the buffalo. And the second theory is that when they saw these buffalo soldiers in Montana, they wore great big coats, heavy coats. And in the snow, they would bend over their saddles, and they looked like buffalo coming through the snow. And the final thing is that the hair on these men's head looked like the hair between the horns of the buffalo. So they called them Buffalo Soldiers. I would show you, but I don't have. The Buffalo Soldiers were in every state in the West, west of the Mississippi River, because they couldn't serve east of the Mississippi River. So they were sent west. They were in Minnesota, as this picture up here shows in the dress helmets. They're at Fort Snelling, Minnesota. That's as far east as they went. But they were in Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Montana, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, California, and a place they call Colorado. Between 1866 and 1898, there were 8,000 Buffalo Soldiers out here in the West. Some say 12,000, because they quickly changed enlistments. They were coming and they were going. So we'll say that between 8,000 to 12,000 Buffalo Soldiers out here in the West between 1866 and 1898. What did they do? They did anything that the United States government asked them to do. They built forts, they worked on telegraph lines, they protected railroad workers, they protected settlers, they caught rustlers, they caught cattle thieves, and they took care of the so-called Native American problem. They did what the United States government asked them to do. Now, I'm here today with 3 people. My wife, Jeanette Bell, Winona Dago, and Patrick Dago. They are part of the Buffalo Soldier units. And I want to introduce a very special soldier. This soldier was in the Army for 2 years. Came in, and this soldier will tell you the story of this particular soldier. The soldier's name was William Cathy. Tell us about William Cathy.
Well, William Cathy really was Cathy Williams. Cathy Williams, she joined the Buffalo Soldiers. But she didn't just join them. What started is she was a slave too, and she was taken from her plantation. During that time, they took her all around everywhere. She could watch these soldiers. Well, after the Civil War, she decided for the better life.
Can you speak just a little louder?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. She decided after the Civil War, I need a better life for myself. She had been watching these soldiers all the time. So in 1867, she went to the Jefferson's barracks. She walked in there and she said, "My name is William Cathy." The man just said, "Okay, come on in." Back then, they didn't need an examination, so nobody paid attention. She was a very tall woman, 5 feet 9 inches. And right on in. She was there for almost 3 years, actually, as a soldier. She did everything that they had to do. But one day, she got really sick. And you know, off and on, she had been getting sick off and on, but back then, they didn't give those soldiers much medical help. So they just give a little medicine and say, "Go on back." Nobody paid much attention. But she got real sick, had to go to the hospital. Then they realized, "This is a woman. What you doing in here?" So they made her get on out. So she had to get out of the service. But she decided as time went on, she kept getting sick and she got older. She said, "You know what? I'm going to put in for her pension." So in Colorado, Trinidad, Colorado, she put in for her pension. And they looked and she said, "I want to get my pension." They said, "Well, we're not in the service." She said, "Well, I was." So they went back and kept saying this William Cathy's name. They said, "Well, I don't know. You're not going to get this pension." So she never got the pension. And years later, she did pass away. But that was a story about Cathy Williams. She was the only documented female Buffalo soldiers that was in Buffalo Soldiers.
And how old was she when she went in? Do we know?
She went in 1866.
66.
She did it actually in 67.
Oh, actually, she was actually.
67, that's right. So she was about 40 something.
Oh, when she died?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they did not give those soldiers, as you said, any examinations then. They needed the numbers. So they just took the soldiers right in. I don't know how long we want us to go. There are a lot of things here in the exhibit. Patrick, do you have anything that you'd like to say to these? Tell them about the weapons that you have on and the uniform a little bit.
I can tell you about the uniform. This was the only issued uniform by the United States government. It was the summer, winter, spring, and fall uniform. They issued 2 uniforms. One was their military uniform and the other one was their dress uniform. The uniform, the tunic is navy blue. The pants are sky blue. Why are they sky blue? Because the government said it was sky blue. The government said it was sky blue, then it was sky blue. The hat is black. Most of the portrayals you see on TV, John Wayne wears a white hat. That was created by John Ford for John Wayne. It's not the issued attire. year was the pistol name?
Well, that one's a Civil War issue.
Civil War issue pistol. We carry it. It is a prop, so these days you got to kind of tell people, hey, we're reenactors. We're not here trying to fight no wars.
What's the significance of the white gloves?
Well,
Go ahead.
the white gloves were used to protect them, their hands, because they originally shot black powder weapons. And those black powder weapons would sometimes explode, and those gloves were used to protect your hands. That's the only reason that they're there.
They're probably leather.
They're leather. They're leather. The uniform is made out of wool,
I thought so, yeah.
and the gloves are long. They didn't care about the soldier necessarily. That was just an item in the army. They dressed them, and they wore what they were issued. Wool was a piece of equipment, a material that was long-lasting, and they issued it.
Now, just to distinguish between cavalry and infantry, cavalry wore high boots. Infantry wore regular boots. Infantry walked, cavalry walked. Back to John.
Now, if you look at the two soldiers, one has high boots on, one has low boots on. There were two units of cavalry. They had cavalry that rode the horses, they were mounted. But no one realized that they also had dismounted cavalry units. And Kathy Williams was in the infantry. She was in the 38th Infantry. So she walked a long ways. And one thing that we have up here in the front too, we have a lot of pictures up here that you may want to look at. You'll see pictures of soldiers. This particular picture is pretty interesting. This guy on the left, his name is John Taylor. The guy on the right is Buckskin Charlie. He was the last Ute chief. John Taylor was Buckskin Charlie's son-in-law. And there's a Taylor family that's on the Ute reservation here in Colorado now. They are part black and part Ute. And they are on the board on the Ute reservation. Their family's been there for a long time, and they've been on the tribal council, and one of them right now runs the casino. She's Buckskin Charlie and John Taylor's great-great-granddaughter. She runs the casino. And when John Taylor's daughter, whose name was Euterpe, they sent her to Indian school. And they wanted the Utes to not know their language. So they were not supposed to speak Ute on the reservation any longer. But Euterpe, who was John Taylor's daughter, taught all of the young kids the Ute language. And so without Euterpe, they would not speak the Ute language today. And I know them really well because John Taylor Valdez is a really good friend of mine. And he's been at my house. I'm going to call his son, who works at EU. They're going to come over and we're going to talk for a while. I've learned a lot of history from the Ute Indians. And some of the things you would be surprised that I know, some of the things that I've learned. As a matter of fact, I found out that all of western Colorado belonged to the Utes. and it was taken away from them. And we went on a train ride, and he pointed out all the land to me that the Utes used to own, and it's amazing. That's a whole different story. That takes up another whole lecture. And I'm not supposed to talk very long today, so I better stop talking here. But what we want you to do is to look at the exhibit, and there will be things up here that you'll see. There will be things up here that you won't know what they are, and we're here to tell you what they are. These posters on the bottom shows the 4 states where the Buffalo Soldiers and what forts they were at. And as I put them up here today, I realized that I need to make some more. I need to make one for Kansas. I need to make one for Nebraska. I need to make one for Arizona. And then I keep going. My work seems like it never ends. But anyway, that's our story today. We're going to stick to it. Yes?
Can you tell them a little about the horses and the shows that we do?
Okay, we do shows all over the United States. And what we do at our shows is that we do the drills that the Army did during the 1870s and the 1880s, just like they did. And we also shoot off of those horses, and we shoot loons, and we use sabers, and we do ring drills. We do things that the Army did during that time period. And the horses that we get are sometimes donated to the Buffalo Soldiers. As a matter of fact, most of the horses that we get are donated to us. And we train them to use them in the shows. And a lot of people sometimes have old horses that they no longer want. And we take those in, and we take very good care of those horses, and then we retrain them. Sometimes the people come to our shows to see their horses perform, to see how they've done. And so we've gone all over the state and out of state getting horses for these shows. Our shows sometimes have 5 men in them, 10 men in them, because it depends. Our guys work. And so we use the days that they have off. Now, some of us don't work. It's not that we don't want to work. It's just that maybe we are too old to work. And so I have other jobs. I'm the announcer for the shows. I don't ride the horse anymore. I used to train all the horses. And now as I get older, the horses seem like they're getting a little bit tall for me to get my leg up into the stirrup and get on the horse. But I still ride.
Could you tell them why you are doing the Buffalo Soldiers? What got you into it?
Well, I started doing the Buffalo Soldiers because my dad was a Buffalo Soldier. My grandfather was a Buffalo Soldier. My cousin was a Buffalo Soldier. And my uncle was a Buffalo Soldier. My dad, my grandfather, and my cousin were in the 10th Cavalry. And for some reason, my uncle joined the 9th Cavalry. So we have people that are in all the units and all the cavalry. And I've been doing horses ever since I started riding horses when I was 4 years old. And I still ride horses, and I'm 84 years old. But I pick my horses that I ride. I don't ride the ones I used to train. Yes?
Tell them where you grew up.
What's that?
Tell them where you grew up.
I grew up in Westminster.
No, with the military part.
Oh, well, gee, I was in Washington State when I first grew up. Is that the part you want me to tell? I've been all over. And
He has horses in his blood.
well, my folks worked on the plantations, and their job on the plantations was to take care of the horses. And so we've been almost doing horse for almost 200 years. And I'm the last one who trains the horses. My daughter can train them as well as I can, but she doesn't like to do that. My granddaughter can ride them too, but they don't like to train them. So I'm the last one that trains the horses. And as a matter of fact, I haven't ridden this year, but I rode last year. So I still ride them, but I can't, but they're getting pretty tall now. And those that get a little frisky, I let somebody else ride those, because I don't want to ride those. Any questions out there? Yes?
What did your father say to you after you graduated?
Well, and the reason that I do the Buffalo Soldiers, I was sitting in my family's living room, and my dad walked up to me and said, "Son," he said, "what did they teach you about Buffalo Soldiers in college?" And I said, "Nothing." He looked at me and he said, "I wasted my damn money." And he walked out the room. My dad was a real quiet kind of a person. Never really reacted to very much, but he wasn't very tall. He was probably about 5'5". But he's from the old school. When they said something, you'd better be listening to it, because they only told you one time. So I went into the kitchen and I said, "Mom, what did Dad do in the Army?" She says, "I don't know, but it had something to do with horses." And then I remembered when we were living in Washington State, he had got discharged from Fort Lewis, and he used to ride in this outfit that was all brown, and he had really high brown boots on. And then I remember that was a cavalry uniform. But I was only 6 years old, so I didn't know what. I just remembered the day that he went riding with some lady, and my mother got awfully mad about that. And that kind of made me think about, well, yeah, he's riding on brown. And I couldn't figure out why she got so mad that he was riding with another lady. She was just another person, I thought. But that kind of left that memory in my mind of that particular day and the whole situation. He never went riding with that lady again, I can tell you that. But anyway, that's the Buffalo Soldier story, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. I don't want to take up everybody's time here because we want you to look at the exhibit. It's over here, and it's here, and it's back here, and it's down in the case here, and there are a lot of things, buttons in here. You'll see some cards in here that don't have any numbers on them. They're playing cards. Why don't those playing cards in that case have numbers on them? No numbers on those playing cards. Why? Soldiers couldn't read. The black soldiers couldn't read, but neither could the white soldiers. During that time period, education was not the most important thing. You got educated by doing things outside. You didn't have to read and write to do it. And then they found out the soldiers couldn't read, but they could count. This got 1 spot, this got 2 spots, this got 3 spots. But what really messed them up was the ace, because it has 1 spot on it, but it has a big spot on it. And the soldiers would go, he'd play the 1, and the other guy plays the ace. And he said, "Wait a minute. You didn't beat me. That has 1 spot on it, and that has 1 spot on it." And then they start arguing. And whoever pulled the gun first won that particular game. And because of that, the Army took all of the weapons from the soldiers and made them put them in a special case, and they were guarded by a sergeant. Now, you guys who were in the service probably know that you didn't have your arms with you unless you were in combat. So anyway, look at the things up here. We'll try to answer all the things for you. And thank you so much for your attention. We appreciate it.
And there's also some refreshments at the other side of the museum once you take a look at the exhibit here. And thanks again for coming, everyone.
There are a lot of things that we can answer for you while we're here. A lot of questions and things you want to. Go ahead and look at the exhibit. And then this guy right here, his name is, he owns a great big, in Germany, he owns a great big Wild West show. But he's from this area.
Oh, wow.
And he is a Native American.